Back, everyone. I'm so excited to be back. I'm back in California. I was in Austin, Texas for a couple of days, for a few days. I'd say a few days. Um, Boy, was it a hoot and hollering of a good time. Visited my friend Nicole and her children, and it was such a good time, and I'm so glad to be back. I was thinking of reading Sense and Sensibility most of the time, I would say. Just having a withdrawal from reading out loud, I'd say. I just started reading this book, also The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. And today was such a short and sweet little one, so I'll read it out loud to inspire us all who are going through it. Not to say that I'm ungrateful for any part of my life, but just mentally, even going on vacation and coming back, it still feels dark inside. It's not like vacation makes it go away. I'm so grateful for all the experiences and the sunshine and everything, but there does feel like, heaviness inside, and then you shame yourself because you're like, your life is so good, you should just feel better. But this March 20, this on this good, the day of our Lord, March 24th, 2025, this little book says, even in the dark, to be broken is no reason to see all things as broken. Seldom seen growing along the ocean floor, the white plumed anemone is a watery blossom. It is white lace opening under tons of black, opening as if bathed in the sun, while so far from the sun. This is the trick to staying well, isn't it? To feel the sun even in the dark, to not lose the truth of things when they go out of view, to grow just the same, to know there is still water even when we are thirsty, to know there is still love even when we are lonely, to know there is still peace even when we are suffering. None of this invalidates our pain, but only strengthens our way back into the light. And that's that. I just thought I'd share that this morning for everyone going through any darkness. And we'll just jump back in. I missed you, little Janie, so much. I miss my little Jane. Look at this sun. Look at this. So I feel you, sun. We feel you. My God. Okay, so last time I thought that Eleanor and her mom were going to go on a trip, but I think Mrs. Dashwood was persuaded by Eleanor to stay home, so Eleanor is going to go on this trip. It says, to some few of the company it appeared rather a bold undertaking, considering the time of year, and that it had rained every day for the last fortnight, and Mrs. Dashwood, who had already a cold, was persuaded by Eleanor to stay home. They are going to go somewhere. They're going to go somewhere. Fun. They're going to go somewhere fun and have a ball, I'm certain. So we're currently on chapter 8. And I'm so excited to be back and reading. Their intended excursion to Whitwell, turned out very differently from what Eleanor had expected. She was prepared to be wet through, fatigued, and frightened. But the event was still more unfortunate, for they did not go at all. Oh, they didn't go at all. The sun. This crazy sun. It's getting more northerly through this little window. It's very cool. By 10 o'clock, the whole party were assembled at the park, where they were to breakfast. The morning was rather favourable, though it had rained all night, as the clouds were then dispersing across the sky, and the sun frequently appeared. They were all in high spirits and good humour, eager to be happy, and determined to submit to the greatest inconveniences and hardships rather than be otherwise. While they were at breakfast, the letters were brought in. Among the rest, There was one for Colonel Brandon. He took it, looked at the direction, changed colour, and immediately left the room. "What is the matter with Brandon?" said Sir John. Nobody could tell. "I hope he has had no bad news," said Lady Middleton. "It must be something extraordinary that can make Colonel Brandon leave my breakfast table so suddenly." In about 5 minutes he returned. "No bad news, Colonel, I hope?" Oh, that sounded like such a man speaking. "No bad news, Colonel, I hope," said Mrs. Jennings, as soon as he entered the room. "None at all, ma'am, I thank you." "Was it from Avignon? Avignon? I hope it does not say that your sister is worse." Oh no, there's something wrong with her sister. "No, ma'am, it came from town, and is merely a letter of business." Oh, how odious. "But how came the hand to discompose you so much, if it is only a letter of business? Come, this won't do, Colonel, so let us hear the truth of it." "My dear madam," said Lady Middleton, "recollect what you are saying." "Perhaps it is to tell you that your cousin Fanny is married?" said, I thought Fanny was already married. Okay, said Mrs. Jennings, without attending to her daughter's reproof. "No, indeed it is not." "Well, then I know who it is from, Colonel, and I hope she is well." "Whom do you mean, ma'am?" Nosy Mrs. Jennings. Golly, she really loves to get in there and stir the pot. "I am particularly sorry, ma'am," said he, addressing Lady Middleton, "that I should receive this letter today, for it is on business which requires my immediate attendance to town." "In town?" cried Mrs. Jennings. "What can you have to do in town at this time of year?" Nobody does anything in town in the winter. It's just how it is. "My own loss is great," he continued, "in being obliged to leave so agreeable a party, but I am the more concerned, as I fear my presence is necessary to gain your admittance at Whitewell." Oh. He was their ticket to this Whitewell place, and now he has to go. This is why nobody could go. Fascinating. What a blow upon them was all this. What a blow upon them all was this. "But if you write a note to the housekeeper, Mr. Brandon," said Marianne eagerly, "will it not be sufficient?" He shook his head. "We must go," said Sir John. "It shall not be put off when we are so near it. You cannot go to town till tomorrow, Brandon, that is all. I wish it could be so easily settled, but it is not in my power to delay my journey for one day. Wow, immediate business." There it is. That's just... "If you would let us know what your business is," said Miss Jennings. She's a nosy Nelly. "We might see whether it can be put off or not." "Well, it's not your decision, ma'am." "Actually, ma'am, it's actually not your decision." "You would not be 6 hours later," said Willoughby, "if you were to defer your journey till our return." "I cannot afford to lose 1 hour." Whoa. Immediate business. Elinor then heard Willoughby say in a low voice to Marianne, "There are some people who cannot bear a party of pleasure. Brandon is one of them. He's afraid of catching cold, I dare say, and invented this trick for getting out of it. I would lay 50 guineas. The letter was of his own writing." "I have no doubt of it," replied Marianne. "There is no persuading you to change your mind, Brandon. I know of old," said said Sir John, "when once you are determined of anything. But, however, I hope you will think better of it. Consider, here are the two Miss Careys come over from Newton. The 3 Miss Dashwoods walked up from the cottage, and Mr. Willoughby got up 2 hours before his usual time, on purpose to go to Whitwell. There's an H. Colonel Brandon again repeated his sorrow in being the cause of disappointing the party, but at the same time declared it to be unavoidable. "Well, then, when will you come back again?" I hope we shall see you at Barton, added her ladyship, as soon as can conveniently leave town, and we must put off the party to Whitwell till you return. You are very obliging, but it is so uncertain when I may have it in my power to return that I dare not engage it at all. I dare not engage for it at all. Oh, he must and shall come back, cried Sir John. If he is not here by the end of the week, I shall go after him. This is a big to-do. We were supposed to go to a party, and you're calling it off, and this is not, I mean, nobody knows what to do in this situation. Because nobody has anything to do. I so do, Sir John, cried Mrs. Jennings, and then perhaps you may find out what his business is. She's so nosy. She's so nosy. I do not want to pry into other men's concerns. I suppose it is something he is ashamed of. Colonel Brandon's horses were announced. You do not go to town on horseback, do you? Added Sir John. No, only to Honiton. I shall then go post. Well, as you are resolved to go, I wish you a good journey, but you had better change your mind. I assure you it is not in my power. He then took leave of the whole party. Is there no chance of my seeing you and your sisters in town this winter, Miss Dashwood? I am afraid none at all. Then I must bid you farewell for a longer time than I should wish to do. To Marianne he merely bowed and said nothing. Come, Colonel, said Mrs. Jennings, before you go, do let us know what you are going about. Come, Colonel, before you go, do let us know what you are going about. He wished her a good morning and attended to Sir John, left the room. Attended by Sir John. Read all the words that are in the sentence. I'm getting back in the groove here. The complaints and lamentations which politeness had hitherto restrained now burst forth universally, and they all agreed again and again how provoking it was to be so disappointed. Everybody's provoked. I can guess what his business is, however, said Mrs. Jennings exultingly. Can you, Ma'am? Said almost everybody. Yes, it is about Miss Williams, I am sure. And who is Miss Williams? Asked Marianne. What? Do you not know who Miss Williams is? I am sure you must have heard of her before. She is a relation of the Colonel's, my dear, a very near relation. We will not say how near, for fear of shocking the young ladies. Oh, then lowering her voice a little, she said to Elinor, he is his natural daughter. Indeed! Oh, yes, and as like him as she can stare. I dare say the Colonel will leave her all his fortune. Lady Middleton's delicacy was shocked, and in order to banish so improper a subject as the mention of a natural daughter, she actually took the trouble of saying something herself about the weather. There's a little one back there. What does it mean? Chapter 8, Lady Middleton Weather. See textual variants of the first and second edition. Oh. This is some first and second edition stuff. When Sir John returned, he joined most heartily in general regret on so unfortunate an event, concluding, however, by observing that as they were all got together, they must do something by way of being happy, and after some consultation it was agreed that although happiness could only be enjoyed at Whitwell, they might procure a tolerable composure of mind by driving about the country. We will only be happy if we go to this place, and we can't, so we'll just drive around. God, that's what I used to do when I first had a car. I was like, I'll just drive to San Francisco real quick. Let my thoughts really go, in the car. I love it. The carriages were then ordered. Willoughby's was first, and Marianne never looked happier than when she got into it. He drove through the park very fast, and they were soon out of sight, and nothing more of them was seen till their return, which did not happen till after the return of all the rest. They both seemed delighted with their drive, but said only in general terms that they had kept in the lanes while the others went on the downs. They had kept in the lanes while the others went out on the downs. Couldn't tell you. I thought it was like improper for women to just like go off with men by themselves, but I guess if they've just decided they're gonna just be friends, I don't know. It was settled that there should be a dance in the evening and that everybody should be extremely merry all day long. Nobody is to be coarse. Some more of the Careys came to dinner. They had the pleasure of sitting down nearly 20 to table, which Sir John observed with great contentment. Willoughby took his usual place between the two elder Miss Dashwoods. Mrs. Jennings sat on Eleanor's right hand, and they had not been long seated before she leant behind her and Willoughby and said to Marianne, loud enough for them both to hear, "I have found you out in spite of all your tricks. I know where you spent the morning." Marianne coloured and replied very hastily, "Where, pray?" "Did not you know," said Willoughby, "that we had been out in my curricle?" We know what a curricle is from Pride and Prejudice. I looked it up and it's a carriage. Yes, Mr. Impudence. I know that very well, and I was determined to find out where you had been to. I hope you like your house, Miss Marianne. It is a very large one, I know, and when I come to see you, I hope you will have new furnished it, for I wanted it very much when I was there 6 years ago. Huh. I hope you like your house. Is that supposed to be like threatening? I don't know. That felt very threatening. Like, I know where you've been and I like your house and I hope you furnish it. I don't understand. Marianne turned away in great confusion. Okay, good. I'm not the only one. I did get a haircut and it's just finding its own place. There's nothing like getting a blowout by a hair person. I'll say that. They really know what they're doing, and I can never ever replicate it. So it just looks like this until I go back, which is usually way too long. Okay, I'm glad Marianne's confused by that because I didn't understand either. Mrs. Jennings laughed heartily, I'm sure she did, and Eleanor found that in her resolution to know where they had been, she had actually made her own women inquire of Mr. Willoughby's groom, and that she had by that mention been informed that they had gone to Allenham, and spent a considerable time there in walking about the garden and going all over the house. Eleanor could hardly believe this to be true, as it seemed very unlikely that Willoughby should propose or Marianne consent to enter the house while Mrs. Smith was in it, with whom Marianne had not the smallest acquaintance. They are doing very uncouth, improper things together, I'll say. As soon as they left the dining room, Eleanor inquired of her about it, and great was her surprise when she found out that every circumstance that related by Mrs. Jennings was perfectly true. Marianne was quite angry with her for doubting it. "Why should you imagine, Eleanor, that we did not go there, or that we did not see the house? Is it not that you have often wished to do yourself?" "Yes, Marianne, but I would not go while Mrs. Smith was there, and with no other companion than Mr. Willoughby. Mr. Willoughby, however, is the only person who can have a right to show that house, and as we went in an open carriage, it was impossible to have any other companion. I never spent a pleasanter morning in my life." I love it when they do that. I've never had a more unpleasant morning in my whole entire life. "I am afraid," replied Eleanor, "that the pleasantness of an employment does not always evince its propriety." What is that word? Events? What's it mean? Events reveal the presence of a quality of feeling. Evidence of. Yes, that's what I was thinking. Events. We're learning something new every day, and learning is power. Evince, evince, evince. It doesn't always evince its propriety. On the contrary, nothing can be stronger proof of it, Eleanor. For if there had been any real impropriety in what I did, I should have been sensible of it at the time, for we always know when we are acting wrong, and with such conviction I could have had no pleasure. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. So how could I be doing something wrong? Because it felt so right. But my dear Mary Ann, as it has already exposed you to some very impertinent remarks, do you not now begin to doubt the discretion of your own conduct? If the impertinent remarks of Mrs. Jennings are to be the proof of impropriety in conduct, we are all offending every moment of our lives, of all our lives. I value not her censure any more than I should do her commendation. I am not sensible of having done anything wrong in walking over Mrs. Smith's ground or in seeing her house. They will one day be Mr. Willoughby's, and ... If they were one day to be your own, Mary Ann, you would not be justified in what you have done. She blushed at this hint, but it was even visibly gratifying to her. And after 10 minutes' interval of earnest thought, she came to her sister again and said with great good humour, "Perhaps, Eleanor, it was rather ill-judged in me to go to Allenham, but Mr. Willoughby wanted particularly to show me the place, and it is a charming house, I assure you. There is one remarkably pretty sitting-room upstairs, of a nice comfortable size for constant use, and with modern furniture it would be delightful. It is a corner room, and has windows on two sides. On one side you look across the bowling green behind the house to a beautiful hanging wood, and on the other you have a view of the church and village, and beyond them of those fine bold hills that we have so often admired. I did not see it to advantage, for nothing could be more forlorn than the furniture. But if it were newly fitted, a couple £100, Willoughby says, would make it the pleasantest summer rooms in England." Could Eleanor have listened to her without interruption from the others, she would have described every room in the house with equal delight. Wow. Marianne loved this house. Wow. That was not a very long chapter, but it did take me a long time to read through it. I know it is a big ask to sit and watch, anything over 1 to 3 minutes. So I appreciate anybody who is able to stick with me for this long and watch, 20 to 30 to 40-minute videos. I really appreciate anybody who wants to watch and listen. So welcome back to reading. Welcome back me to reading. And we'll be done there today. Chapter 8 of Sensibility. It's just so gossipy and fun and juicy. And I do forget where Colonel Brandon did have to go. So I'm excited to keep reading. But whatever you are reading, I hope you are having a good time and learning a lot and expand your mind, Craig, and happy reading, everybody. And I'm so happy to be back to read to you all. Happy reading and ta-ta. Bye.